the upshot of all this is that I think that Bitcoin Cash is going to be the global reserve currency one day, right? Bitcoin has always grown exponentially from its beginnings way back when, and I don't see any reason that it's going to stop. Pretty much, it just defies the haters every single time.
You're going to love this. Trust me. What you're seeing now is my normal state. This is a Super Saiyan. And this is what is known as a Super Saiyan that has ascended past a Super Saiyan. Or you could just call this a Super Saiyan 2.
What a useless transformation. You've changed your hair, so what?
Just wait.
Has he really found a way to surpass an Ascended Saiyan? Is that possible?
He must be bluffing. I mean, what would that make him? Double ascended?
And this is to go even further beyond.
There will be no real non-controlled currency in the world.
We're coming for you, Banks.
Increasing the block size to 32 megabytes right now. What would be the top 5 arguments that would get hurled against me?
Oh, that's a good one.
There are a few that the big blockers got right.
Ching, like all these coins splash into the wallets of all the winners. I love that.
There's a new threat out there. It's crypto.
Hello and welcome back to the Bitcoin Cash podcast, following Bitcoin Cash on its rise to global reserve currency. Let's go. Need a bit of energy. I've been a bit low energy in some of the recent episodes. Gotta bring that high energy. All right, this is episode number 126, Zapit, featuring Romit. Probably the shortest title we've ever had for an episode, I think. To the point, Saturday, the 31st of August, 2024. I'm your host, Jeremy. Jet is doing the producing, same as always. And before we get started today with our guests, we've got 2 quick little announcements we've got to make for the show. The first is our fundme.cash pitch. So we've delivered 5 flip starters, and we've got now the sort of effectively the 6th flip starter, but it's going to be on it is on fundme.cash. Shout out to Sayoshi Nakamario for building this, which is the latest and greatest BCH crowdfunding tool. You don't need a Flipstarter plugin. You can use the Cash and Eyes wallet to connect to it and then put in some sats if you want to fund the show. You also get to leave a name and message. So far we've got 53% roughly completed, about 18 BCH of the 35 that we're looking for to do episodes 126 to 135. So if you've been enjoying the show, now is a fantastic time to help us keep it running, and in the process you can also try out fundme.cash, Wallet Connect, Cash and Eyes, and really get a sense of where state of the art in BCH is at. If you're enjoying, please contribute. It really means a lot, and that's how everything runs without too many ads and sponsored segments. Okay, the other piece of news for all listeners of the show is that the listener survey is back for another year. It's the end of August, start of September, which is when we do our yearly listener survey. So if you go to bitcoincashpodcast.com/survey, SURVEY, then you can find a link there to the 2024 survey and you can fill it out. None of the questions are required, but it's only 15 questions. It should take you less than 5 minutes. Fill it out, and then we obviously talk about the results and the stats on the show. It really helps to get a sense of where the podcast is at, where the BCH community is at, and I think people have actually really enjoyed contributing to that in the past. So bitcoincashpodcast.com/survey, SURVEY, and you can be a part of the stats. Okay, on to our guest today is Romit, who is the founder of Zapit, and we met, this is nearly 2 years ago now, right, in St. Kitts at the BCH 2022 conference. I don't know, do you have any reflections on that in hindsight, being so long ago, right? It's like time flies.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, it's been quite a while. I think a lot of things have happened since then. It's just that, we've been, I guess, busy in our own silos. So, yeah, I guess not much has been caught up with whatever was done during that time. Maybe we can discuss more about it during this podcast. Looking forward to that. Thanks for having me on again. I think, I'm excited to be back on here again.
Well, last time we did it like on a couch with the world's worst audio, and that was our first time that we'd ever done any like live shows or anything, right, Jet? So that was a bit of a learning curve, and I'm sure that one will go down in the history books. But here we're back online, and I'm looking forward to definitely the next time we can do an in-person one. The ones we did at Bliss were actually really good. I really enjoyed those, and there's always some magic about doing it in person. But of course, with an international, global, busy community like we have. Yeah. Well, there's always going to be plenty of opportunities. There's always more conferences and more BCH things happening, especially as we all get, filthy rich from the price going through the roof. So I'm sure that'll help a lot. But let's start with let's start with the price. It's been a pretty bad week, honestly, for BCH, I guess, just for crypto in general. $322.71 will buy you 100 BCH megasats, which is way down. One BTC sat will buy 183.4 BCH sats, so that's also down, and one Ethereum will buy 782 megasats, so we're also down. So just a terrible week for BCH overall. But quick shout out to bchbull.com or bchbear.com, where you can now profit off the perpetually decreasing BCH price. If that is a problem for you. How are you seeing the markets at the moment, Romit?
There's always the ups and downs there, right? I'm not sure. I don't really pay attention too much to the price because, I'm on the building side of things. I guess when you're paying too much attention to building, you rarely get to see the price. But yeah, I guess I just kind of skimmed through it, and yes, I saw that it was in the reds, and I didn't know what triggered it. I knew that, okay, there were some crypto news related that might have triggered it, but I wasn't too sure. So yeah, but I guess it's part of the game. So you just have to wait some more. And well, people do predict that post the halving cycle, there's always a bull run. So expecting that this is just a lead up to the next bull run that's coming.
Everybody is, but I'm still sticking with my general statement that I think that's completely overhyped. Like I'm bullish. I think in 24 months will be higher than we are now. But I think this whole narrative of we're going to see a huge crypto bull run 2025, blah, blah, blah. I think that's like fake. Like, okay, we'll get some pumps, but everybody is waiting.
Maybe not that big.
Yeah, like everybody is waiting for this. Like my theory has always been that euphoric crypto bull runs were driven by the halving cycle plus retail adoption, because as retail adoption spreads, then it creates euphoria in people like, wow, we're actually taking over the world. And that happened in the 2011 run, roughly 2013 and 2017, but got cut short by the increasing fees. Then in 2021, it kind of like eked out one last push where everybody was able to be euphoric because they were still like digital gold, institutions are coming and all that. Now that's all over. Like nobody thinks
institutions
that
are
BTC.
right?
Yeah, it's just a scam. Like
it's not going up that much.
Exactly. And it takes more and more and more money to move the price more and more, which wouldn't be a problem if you had exponentially increasing end user adoption, because that would make up that gap and it would create so much more hype and euphoria. But we don't have that. So I think everybody is just like praying for relying on their net worth to 15x in 2025 is nuts. Like BCH is certainly going to be bullish because we're going to keep building.
Supply of new coins coming in, maybe that could change things. Like from the miners' point of view, at one point they would be selling at a much higher price than they are right now because of the halving. So, but the traders still hold a huge portion of the percentage of the coins. I think when that shifts towards miners having most of it, I think the price increase usually tends to happen then.
Yeah, but that's the miners. That's not going to make that much of a difference, I don't think, because we already heard about miners that were they've been profitable this whole time. Like, again, this is just anecdotal, but I heard somebody talking about they were talking to some miners or whatever, and they were like, okay, even with the price going 60,000, 20,000, didn't really matter. They were profitable the whole time. So I think miners, and the mining just adjusts with the difficulty algorithm anyway. They certainly impact the price, but these days there's just so much more on the market. Like we're down to the last 6% of inflation emission of the whole supply, right? So the vast majority of it is already out there. Yeah, you can argue the new mining supply is like at the margin, so that's what makes the critical difference, but I'm not such a fan of that. Anyway, all I'm saying is for everybody who's holding out in 2021, it was the super cycle. Dan Held's the super cycle. Yet another hoax that didn't come true. I haven't seen him out there shilling another super cycle, but anyone expecting any kind of mega cycle, I think you're going to be disappointed, but we'll wait and see. Who knows? I could always be wrong. Okay, let's crack on then with Zapit. So Zapit obviously is one of the premier BCH wallets and was actually heavily represented at Bliss. Quite a few people were using the Zapit wallet actually, which was good to see. Yeah. I think we announced on the stream, I can't remember the exact numbers of when people were checking in and showing their Jessica NFT token. We had some stats. I'm sure if you check the stream, I said it at the start of day 2 maybe, or anyway, or after lunch on day 1. Anyway, it was very popular wallet and been constantly improving. So let us know what's been the latest in Zapit, starting from what was going on in St. Kitts, because I think that's where a lot of people would have last known big announcements coming out of Zapit.
Sure, yeah, I guess the last announcement that we did in St. Kitts was the integration of the UPI payments. So we were able to run that for about 6 to 7 months. We got a lot of thousands of transactions with that we did process, where BCH was used to make payments to all the UPI merchants. But unfortunately,
just explain that a little bit more as well for people who don't know. Like, not everyone knows about the whole UPI payments and how big it is. Just give a bit of context for all the listeners that didn't know about that.
Sure, definitely. So yeah, in India we have this payment system called UPI, which is Unified Payments Interface, which just allows most of the e-wallets, like any kind of payment wallet, to be integrated into this UPI system, where any users using any kind of app, they would just walk into a store, scan a simple QR code and be able to make a payment from their bank account. So we plugged in the Zapit wallet as well into the same system. So you could actually walk into any store, scan a QR code, and make a payment with BCH. And the merchant would get paid in rupees, the local currency here. So the merchant wouldn't even know that the customer paid, paid in crypto. So that's the kind of system that we had built. One of the things that did allow us to run a system like that was there were zero regulations at that time. There were literally no regulations that dictated what kind of payment systems, what crypto payment systems could do. So UPI actually has over 100 million merchants all across the country. So yeah, Zapid wallet just plugged into that system and it gave us a huge advantage. As I said, it ran for about 6 to 7 months. We saw thousands of transactions through that. Everybody loved it. They were waiting for more features within that. As we were working on it, all of a sudden, we saw that the transaction started failing. At that time, we did not know what was the issue because, from our payment processor side, they did not give us any clarity either. So it took us like close to 3 to 4 months to figure out what the issue was. But then later on, we realized that, okay, there were new regulations that were pushed by the Indian government that basically banned crypto to INR payments, any kind of payments. So there was a new rule that they introduced that made it difficult for our business model to run the way it did. Of course, I cannot reveal the back end of how we did that. It made specifically that route illegal. It's not illegal, but heavily regulated at least. So yeah, we had to drop that support eventually. We waited for quite a few months. We were told that it would come back, but eventually we came to the conclusion that no, we are not going to be able to run that again. So we had to drop that, and then that wasn't the first time the regulations tried to stop us. So we continued building more and more things. So I guess that's what happened to the UPI update. Since then, of course,
is there any way around that? Like for the new, is there any way you can create a new route? Since it was such a successful thing, right? You would think that maybe you'd try and find a different way around it, or is it just completely impossible?
It's actually quite hard because they introduced this new rule called the travel rule, which means that any crypto wallet, anybody that's offering any kind of crypto service needs to do KYC of a wallet address, not just KYC of the individual using their ID cards, but also you need to prove that they own an address, which makes it really hard, as you can see, because now we'll have to KYC every single user and every single address as well. And it requires like a video proof that, the users have to prove that they own the address. But another part of that rule is that whenever you're receiving or sending crypto, it has to be from and to the customer. It cannot be from one customer to the other. Like, our UPI payments, where we took crypto from one user, but then we made INR payment to another merchant completely, right? So that kind of became hard because that wasn't allowed according to the travel rule. And yes, it's a little hard. We can still do it. We just have to do it in a completely legal way. What I mean is through license. We have to get like a payments license, which is quite expensive in India. It's upwards of over 100 or 200,000 per year that you need to pay for the license. As you can see, it's not viable for small startups. It's only for big corporations that can kind of run the system. So yeah, that kind of became non-viable for us. So we had to drop that support temporarily. Although recently we did introduce gift card supports with partnership with this company called as Crypto Refills as well as Coinsbee. So what you can do is you can actually buy gift cards of a UPI wallet. So you can use your BCH, purchase a gift card, redeem that gift card in a UPI wallet, and then make UPI payments using that UPI wallet. Now, it's not the same thing. It's not as easy as it was before. It's a workaround. It's possible, but it's still not a direct payment. So that's the best that we can do.
Regulations, just crushing us yet again. What, like completely unsurprising, but also still, tragic and unfortunate at the same time, right?
Yeah, but we're not going to stop there. We want to continue building other things. Since then, one of the things that has always been hard within the Indian context, and maybe a few other countries as well, which I'm not too sure, is that part of this travel rule is exchanges. They didn't want to do KYC for every single wallet that a user would be depositing their crypto from, right? It's quite hard because it's just become too expensive to handle that. So what most of the Indian exchanges did is that they just disabled a deposit and withdrawal of crypto from a crypto exchange. So what you could do is you could deposit your INR, trade, right? You could make all the trade, you can make all the profits, but then withdraw your INR again. So you could never get access to the crypto itself. So majority of the Indian exchanges work that way. So essentially, they declared crypto as a trading asset. That's it, nothing else. You cannot use it for anything else. You can just use it for trading. That has always been an issue. Like on ramping and off ramping has always been an issue from the Indian market side. So a P2P exchange was very important for us, especially a non-custodial P2P exchange. So we did enhance and relaunch our P2P exchange in a much more grander way. I would say it's probably the best P2P exchange that's available in the market right now. We do support multiple chains, but it started off with just Bitcoin Cash. And yeah, users can completely buy Bitcoin Cash from any user around the world, completely anonymous. Like we don't even need your username, phone number. It's built right into the Zapit wallet, so you can actually place an offer if somebody accepts an offer. So we use a smart contract for escrow. Like every other P2P exchange out there, like Binance or whatever, they use a centralized escrow system. Like the company itself acts as the escrow. We have actually built a smart contract, which we also recently got audited. And the smart contract holds the funds until the fiat payment is transferred. The fiat is transferred. And yeah, so we act as an arbiter. We do not get access to the funds. We can only sign a message on the blockchain saying that the buyer cheated or the seller cheated. But if not, if the trade goes through successfully, or if the trade gets canceled by the buyer and seller, then Zapit is not involved. It's completely, I guess, decentralized in that way. And yeah, recently we crossed over $1 million worth of liquidity that's available on the platform. We're looking to raise the volume on that. We also launched the ambassadors program for our P2P exchange. So basically, you can sign up with us. You can actually get more traders or whatever, liquidity providers for us. And we share 50% of our fee revenue with the ambassadors that sign up with us. So that's something that we are running from the P2P exchange point of view.
Yeah, that's awesome. And with the P2P exchanges, crypto's had a long history of these. As you mentioned, there's other options like the Binance and other ones now. And in the past, there was like local Bitcoins and all this kind of stuff. So why are you confident that this is not also going to just get either regulated out of existence, or you're going to just drown under a huge load of like fraud and other problems between those two things? Or maybe, I guess, it not being profitable. Between those three things, that seems to have wrecked a lot of the previous solutions. So what's been your counteraction to that?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. We have recognized that there are definitely some problems from the P2P exchange point of view. Regarding the scams, we are working on a bunch of things. Now, we have already deployed things like ratings, and we have eligibility criteria. Like you as a creator of an offer can actually set the eligibility for who can accept your offer. You can ask for email verification, phone verification. You can actually ask for minimum balance that a user has, things like that. We are also working on adding collateralization, token gating. Basically, if you've been loyal to the platform, if you've been a stakeholder, then you're most likely going to have a lot of our tokens. So you can actually stake that to prove that you've been part of the system for a long time. There are a lot of things that we're working on from the point of view of scams. I guess from point of view of regulations, since we are completely non-custodial, we are the only ones. I think recently Paytaka launched their P2P exchange. So they're basically, after us, they are the only ones. But they're, of course, just for BCH. But for every other chain out there, we are probably the only P2P exchange that's non-custodial right now in the market. There was local.bitcoin.com, but that got shut down. There was also local cryptos who also shut down. And most of the other custodial P2P exchanges have also been shut down. There are very few running at the moment, but they are still custodial. So yes, most of the KYC laws, AML, all those regulations apply for them as well. The reporting laws and things like that apply for them as well. But none of those apply for us because we don't really get the funds from the users. Like, we are a completely non-custodial platform. The wallet itself is non-custodial, plus the P2P exchange is also non-custodial. So I think fewer regulations apply on us. Ban regulations, actually, the majority of the issue that we have had is from the app stores. Like Apple and Google create more issue for us than the governments from this point of view, because they ask for license. Like recently, we've been having a back and forth with Apple because they actually rejected one of our updates for about 10 days. They kind of held our app hostage because they did not put our update through, because they were asking for license to operate the P2P exchange, even though we literally provided our open source code, like the escrow code, which is open source. We provided it to them. We said that, look, you can view it. This is not a custodial solution. You can actually have a look at it. But then no, they said that the marketing terms matter more than the code itself. Like if you're calling yourself an exchange, then you have to have a license. So I'm not sure. Maybe we can change the words, like call it a marketplace or something like that. I'm not sure. We have to do something on that front. But looks like the issue is with the marketing than the way of operation itself. But we are confident we can find solutions on that. And regarding the profitability, yes, we totally recognize that if there's a platform that's doing only P2P exchange, then yes, it's not going to be profitable. That's why we have a bunch of other things as well that's part of the wallet. The way we treat P2P exchanges is just another way of on-ramping and off-ramping to Bitcoin Cash in a anonymous way. Like if you want to get some Bitcoin Cash in an anonymous way, you can use our P2P exchange. But that's not our primary service. It's just an on-ramp and off-ramp service.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, pretty impressive sort of, I'm going to say loss leader, but you might not necessarily be losing money. Maybe it's just only marginally profitable, or you're breaking even or whatever, but it's great to have the redundancy of those different elements built in. And that kind of, I see that happening a lot in the BCH scene, right? Like it's kind of the same thing where, like, when we started with Selene Wallet, the podcast was sort of able to incubate Selene Wallet a little bit. So it didn't really matter whether or not Selene Wallet was immediately making, tons of money or anything like that. But if you have one project that is working and then has a bit of spare resources, it can dedicate that to something that maybe isn't initially the most important thing, but over the long run, it starts to pay off returns. And I think that's really great to see that the community is building up projects in a systematic and like a careful way, because that only happens if projects in the scene are being conservative with their financial management. If they're trying some sort of VC strategy where it's like, get a bunch of money, spend money, $5 to every new user to onboard them, and then you burn through all your capital, then you have to do another raise, then you're always kind of behind the game rather than being ahead of the game. If you can build up a bankroll or a wallet, a fat wallet, and then, or not even that fat, but just you have more funds than you need to, and then you can invest that into new projects, not expecting them to immediately succeed, right?
Yeah, true. I mean, our primary focus was like fiat payments, right? Like how do we actually bridge crypto to fiat payments? And the UPI payments, we were actually generating some revenue out of that because we would collect like a small fee out of it. But yeah, since then, it's happened at least twice or thrice now that due to regulations, we had to shut down the service. So we have decided that, okay, maybe that can be, running parallelly, but we want to focus on maybe a few other things, which is a little less, I guess, intensive when it comes to regulations. So we've been looking into some kind of payments, and we thought that, okay, recently Web3 gaming is kind of taking off. I think with the Telegram's coin, I think they're doing a really good job of actually getting users into the crypto space. Maybe the chain itself might not be decentralized or something like that, but their marketing seems to be working. They seem to be getting a lot of users in. And then we thought about it. Okay, why does it work? Well, every other service that we have, whether it's payments, whether it's a coin swap, whether it's on-ramp, off-ramp, whether it's P2P exchange, whether it's a DEX, all of this kind of presumes that a user needs to have some balance of a crypto, right? You need to have either fiat with you or you need to have crypto with you. But Web3 gaming doesn't necessarily mean that. A user without any balance, any kind of balance of crypto, can actually start getting involved in the Web3 or crypto space by just playing games. So that is why we wanted to get into Web3 gaming, like play to earn gaming. And yeah, we're coming up with some pretty cool things. We can maybe discuss about that now.
Yeah. Tell me.
So I think about 3 weeks back, we launched our first game. It's called Zapit. It's a clone of Flappy Bird, but with, I guess it looks much better. It plays much better and it has a lot more features. So we did that because we started off with a simpler game that's much popular in the, I guess, gaming community, that people are pretty aware of. And from our point of view, we wanted to see if this idea actually works. We wanted to see, okay, if our users are actually interested in playing a game and actually earning tokens for it. So the model is that, in any other game, right, you would play a game because probably it's fun, but then there are leaderboards, you're competing in the leaderboards, but you're not necessarily getting anything, right? You're not getting anything in return. So that's where we wanted to bring up the play to earn angle, where, yes, on Zapit you can start playing Zappy Bird. You can actually put up a really good, maybe high score. But we have like a week's worth of tournament that runs. And at the end of the week, the highest scorers, right now we are rewarding about 25% of the top scorers. They get our token, which is a ZRP token. It's a Zapit Reward Points token. So they earn ZRP tokens for actually playing the game. Now, ZRP token itself has its own ecosystem that's built in, but currently the use case that we are looking into is Web3 gaming. So recently we crossed over 30,000 games that is being played per week. So there's two ways of playing. You can actually either
3,000 or 30,000? Didn't you tell me 30,000? 30,000.
30,000. Yeah, I slipped there. 30,000 games per week. So that's kind of split. So there are two ways that users can actually play a game. You can either watch an ad, which is the free way. You can actually watch an ad and play the game. Or you can actually use your ZRP tokens, whether you have purchased it from a DEX or you have earned it from the myriad ways that we have within the reward system within the wallet. So if you've earned it, then you can actually use it. So the way we differentiate between a user playing with an ad or playing with ZRP is we have a score multiplier. So if you watch an ad and you play the game, you get a 1x score multiplier. So if you, let's say, in Zappy Bird, for every obstacle that you cross, you get 1 point. If you score 10 points, then your points is 10. But if you play with ZRP, then you get a 2x, which means if you score 10 points, then your points get added up as 20 points. So basically, the incentive now is that if you like playing a game, if you've got involved in it, and if you think that you want to score higher, then you can actually start making transactions on the BCH network to get basically a higher score. So that's the incentive there. So actually we see that 60% of our games is ZRP games, 40% is ads. So majority of the users are actually, which is, I think we are averaging to more than 1,000 users every week that are playing it on a consistent basis. And yeah, majority of them are playing with ZRP, which is quite surprising. I thought majority would be playing with that. Fewer users will be playing with ZRP, but it's flipped. So seems like it's working. So we have some pretty cool things that we are working on with the game and even new games.
Okay, before we get into that, I just want to touch on this a little more. I think this is a really key point, right? Because I've just had a look. So on Cauldron right now, ZRP, your reward token, is actually one of the most popular tokens. I've been seeing it. It's been at the top of the list up there like very regularly. So it currently has 6.5 BCH of liquidity in there, plus also the same amount of ZRP, obviously, with 2.6 BCH 30-day trade volume. And so I've been keeping an eye on that. Cauldron itself is still quite small, but ZRP is really ranking up there. And so in the system that you've got now, people can now earn ZRP, I would say ZRP, from using the wallet and interacting with it, right? And then they can but then they have a reason to spend it. So it's like you've got a circular loop going just within your product, right? One of the reasons that building network effect from merchants and so on is so hard is because you have to connect up so many different steps. Somebody has to find out about Bitcoin Cash, they have to learn how it all works, then they have to get some, then they have to get to a merchant, and the merchant has to be open or accepting it or whatever, and there has to not be any problems there, and then they need a way to loop that so that then they're earning more, and then they're going back to spend, and there's about 15 steps, right? So it's so difficult, but you have now packaged it all up in one, and you're driving just an internal ecosystem, right? That's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, the ZRP token has been quite popular from before we even launched the games, because we have had our rewards program that's been running from quite a long time. There are multiple ways of actually earning the token within the wallet. So, for example, if you provided liquidity on our P2P exchange, you can actually earn some tokens. If you, let's say, make BCH transactions, you can earn some tokens. And if you use our coin swap service, you can, get some tokens. And there are a lot of other ways as well. Like we have introduced even a spinner, like daily spinner kind of a thing. You can actually spin the wheel and get some tokens from that as well. So we have had that from quite a while. So that's our distribution mechanism. So that's how we distribute. We do not sell any of our tokens. It's primarily used as a reward, as an incentive mechanism. It's to incentivize users to actually get involved in the Zapit ecosystem, right? But then what do you actually do with the earned tokens, right? So one thing is, of course, you can go ahead and sell it in the market, but that's for crypto aware individuals. What if you're not? So that is where our idea of decentralized discounts had come in. It's not launched yet. We had almost launched it on SLP when previously when we were in the SLP ecosystem. But yeah, since that never took off, we wanted to reintroduce that in the cash tokens ecosystem. So what we are basically working on is that you can walk into stores, pay with BCH, but if you have ZRP token, you can actually redeem your tokens to get discounts, and we are giving up to 25% of the whatever payment amount that you're doing. That amount gets discounted if you've earned the tokens, and you can redeem the token. And unlike any other platform that's out there that provides discounts either from their marketing cut or they force their merchants to provide a discount, this would be market-driven discount. The discounts come directly from a decentralized exchange or a DEX. So it's not coming from Zapit's marketing budget or something like that. So as long as there is demand for the token, which of course it's up to us to build that demand using multiple ways that I can explain as well. So users can just redeem it, and within the same transaction, the ZRP gets sold in the DEX, and the BCH gets bought and then paid to the merchant. So it's what we call the world's first decentralized discount system. That's what we're building.
Wow, that's crazy. Is that working now, or that's like this?
Not yet. It's not live yet.
Okay.
It's not live yet. So we have done the POCs, but it's not live yet. So the reason that we haven't launched it yet is we need enough volume on the DEX. We need enough trading volume to be available on Calderon. So we are still waiting for things to pick up. One of the ways that the token system can pick up is through the gaming, is what we're thinking. Well, I guess one way that merchants or businesses could buy the token is to advertise with us, whether within the game or actually we have a separate promotions section within the wallet. Businesses can advertise with us. I think even you have
with the podcast. Yeah. I was gonna ask about this next, because that's another way that you can spend the tokens is you can advertise. So even end users could earn something, and then if they wanted to, they could even just advertise like their favorite meme or something. I don't know, for the lols. But yeah, we did do some ads on the podcast with the Zapit stuff. It's been a little while since I looked into it, but how's that going with people advertising?
So that was a test run. It went pretty well, actually. I think we got over 10 advertisers with us on the test run. It went pretty well. I think all the advertisements got shown, and it's per click basis, so all the ads got clicked. So of course we want to continue that on a bigger role, but I think it still has to grow. Like the entire cash token ecosystem has to grow, the entire BCH ecosystem still has to grow for something like that to pick up. We are trying to get in other businesses from other chains as well, so that the users from those parties also come into the wallet, and then eventually get exposed to the BCH businesses as well. But yeah, that's still happening on the side. I guess more users can be brought in through the gaming at the moment, so that's what we're focusing on. But the way we are building our games, we are also planning to have in-game advertisements as well. Like for example, if you see the Zapit bird, you're basically going through the background. You can actually see some mountains and some clouds. Maybe an ad can be put up on a cloud or something like that. If you get enough users, if you get enough players, something like that, it's in the background, so it's not like intrusive, right? So it's not popping up on your face. These things are being tested right now, and if something like that does happen, then yeah, I think more eyes for the advertiser, and more players playing the game. The entire ecosystem kind of gets looped there. So that's what we're working on right now.
Yeah, I mean, the more you talk about it, the more the dots are starting to connect a little bit in my head, because this is something that the BCH community seems to already be naturally trending in the direction of. You're building this gaming stuff related to cash tokens and games. BCH Guru is obviously making a game, a prediction game, prediction markets. A Fifth of Gaming is doing BCH gaming and tournaments. Chad from Bitcoin Cash TV, he's doing streams of him doing gaming. We've got actually quite a lot of the existing ecosystem getting onto this idea of games and incentives and tokens, and I think that's a really powerful idea, and I wonder if there isn't some way we can accelerate that. Like, this is a bit ambitious for now because I think everyone's already got their plate quite full a lot, but I can already see you could have like a meta project called B Gamer or something, and then what you would have is people using those services could like build up through a tech tree of BCH skills or BCH products that they'd used, and then build up, I don't know, some kind of profile that you could show off or stuff like that. Because like you were talking about people using the coins to pay for things in the game, or you don't actually get anything. Well, the original thing you got from games was those rare items and stuff like that, and that's what David Shattuck was talking about when he was running his WoW guild, and people were paying money to buy these like rare items and stuff like that. So I wonder, especially with cash tokens, if we couldn't do some kind of meta BCH game, or maybe even the whole ecosystem. Maybe I'm thinking too small here. Maybe it needs to be listen to the podcast, level up your education stat bar, or get some streamed cash tokens or something, and then the same throughout different products. Like, I don't know, it just sounds like a really cool ecosystem wide initiative. What do you think about something like that?
I think tokens are quite powerful. I know a lot of people are kind of against tokens, maybe because it kind of takes attention away from BCH itself a little. But if you're using tokens on BCH, you're still using BCH. You still need to have the BCH balance to pay for gas fees and things like that. So people still are aware of that. Like, they need to get Bitcoin Cash. But yes, I think community tokens are pretty powerful. You can have project-based tokens like reward tokens. All of these things are powerful, and I think they should definitely be embraced. On the bigger side, yeah, I'm not sure how it would turn out. We are trying to experiment. Like, that's what essentially we are doing, right? Like, we are trying to see which direction that we can take this project in, and try to find out, okay, where is the demand? And what we saw in the, at least, gaming space is that there's a huge I guess a huge gap when it comes to using crypto itself in game. I did, maybe 2 to 3 weeks of research to find a really good game that actually uses crypto within the game. Like, they call themselves Web3 game. They even have NFTs and stuff, but then it has nothing to do with the game. Like, you can't do anything with the NFT within the game, or it's actually very strict. Like, you need to first purchase the NFT, only then you can actually start playing the game. Like, why isn't there a middle ground? Like, why can't I play the game and maybe use NFTs for something else? So that is where I think I saw a gap, and that's what we are basically working on right now. As you said, yes, those special items that people tend to love in the game, those could be like NFTs, which is what we are working on. I think this week we are going to be launching some new characters. Like right now, there is only one bird that you can use to play in Zapit, but we are introducing new characters that would be NFT based characters. So what you can do is you can actually purchase those NFTs. Only if you own those NFTs, you can actually select the character within the game, and you can actually use that character to play in the game. Well, the difference would be is that it would have enhanced attributes, like it has a better jump ratio, or it has better speed, or something like that. And different characters have different attributes, and you can actually use that. We also have power up NFTs that are coming up. Like for example, you can actually apply invisibility on the bird, and that happens only if you have the invisibility NFT. This is what we were trying to see within other games, and we could not find it. We're like, okay, it's super easy to build on BCH. I'm not sure how easy it is to build on other chains. It's super easy to build on BCH. It costs much less. The transactions are like instant. And if you see, majority of the time, people who are playing with ZRP, they have no issue at all. Most of the time, the transactions go through. It doesn't get dropped. The transactions don't get canceled. There's no double spending. So as a game builder, there is no issue at all. I think recently we saw that the Ronin chain, which is a pretty popular gaming chain, I think they got hacked or something like that. So they've faced issues. One of the popular chains that right now is running gaming is Ton. I think they also had issues recently. They had to shut down. I think their nodes just stopped producing blocks or something like that. Yeah, we face none of those with BCH, and that's why we love building. I think gaming on BCH is pretty cool because it works. That's the number one word, right? It works. Unlike other chains, I've actually tried playing games on Polygon as well. Half of the time, the transactions kind of get dropped. I was like, I want to play a game that actually I can play, right? Like, play is the most important word there. I'm not able to play the game. And with Zapit, it just works every time. So I'm pretty excited with the NFTs and all of that. I think it would probably be the first utility-based NFTs on cash tokens. I'm not sure if there are others that you can actually purchase the NFT.
But
Sorry?
The Bliss Jessicas for the ticket to the conference, I guess that's a utility NFT, but of a different kind.
Different kind, maybe one-time use. Yes, it's definitely there. This is something that you can actually use on a day-to-day basis within the game. Yeah, I think that's not seen yet. And one more thing that we are trying to do is that we're trying to show the entire world that it can be done as well. People think that you cannot do much on Bitcoin Cash. We want to build these things, and we can show that it's cheaper to do it. It's much easier to do it. And it actually works. It's scalable, things like that. Like, why are you building games on other chains when you can do it on Bitcoin Cash much simpler and much easier? So that's one of the other goals as well.
Yeah, so just on that topic then, expand a little bit for me. Obviously, you've been a long time Bitcoin Casher and watching the scene, quite closely, and with all the upgrades and stuff. Do you have any thoughts about Abla that you want to throw in there? Obviously, now that's kind of old news. It's shipped and it's working, but in terms of seeing that go out live, and then also maybe the tooling around cash tokens, you said it's really easy. Is it getting easier now, or was it always difficult, or like, was it difficult in the past and now it's got easy, or it was easy, it's getting easier? What's happening on that front too?
Okay, so I guess, yes, regarding the tooling, it is still hard. When I said it's easy, I meant, okay, if you're already a developer that knows how to build on Bitcoin Cash, building something that works in that way, it's easy. Although, yes, the documentation and the SDKs and all of the things that's required to actually build stuff on Bitcoin Cash has gotten much better recently. I think probably in the last 2 or 3 years. I think it's still lacking. What I'm saying is I'm comparing it to something like Ethereum or Polygon or something like that, because we have delved into those ecosystems as well. And yes, since they have much larger marketing budgets and much larger infrastructure budgets, they were able to set it up. But we need to work a lot more on that. I think education when it comes to what Bitcoin Cash can do is still lacking, because I was invited to one of the guilds. There's something called guilds where they actually have discussions about cryptos and things like that. One of the reasons that they did invite me is because they didn't know anybody else that is actually proficient with Bitcoin Cash, and they wanted to know what's happening with Bitcoin Cash in with respect with the inscriptions and things like that that's happening on BTC. They wanted to know, okay, what's the difference, right? So yeah, basically just prepared a presentation, and while preparing that presentation I realized that, oh, okay, yes, there is a little bit of information that's lacking, because even for me to find some information, it took me a little while. I knew where to look, so I could find it, but a person who's coming in fresh, who has no knowledge about this entire ecosystem whatsoever, I think for them there isn't the SEO when it comes to Bitcoin Cash programming is quite bad. You do not find enough, you know what I mean? Like, we don't have enough websites, or we don't have enough platforms that is talking about Bitcoin Cash programming, where it kind of ranks up. When somebody searches for it, it doesn't rank up that well. You have to know where to look. And if you do find out, I guess yes, there's a little bit of ease, because implementing that itself is a little bit easier. But understanding that is quite hard, because most of the developers out there are EVM developers. They don't understand what a UTXO is. They don't understand UTXO development as well. So I think, yeah, the information there is a little bit lacking. We probably need to work a little bit more on that. We have also started to work on few things on our own. It might take a while, because there's just so much information available out there to put out, right? But yes, when it comes to, but we would love to put out something that's specific to cash tokens, and maybe building games with cash tokens. I think something specific to that, yes, we can maybe create some tooling and information-based platforms.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I think this is a bit of a whole community effort. Like, I have the podcast resources, and I have some links there. I have a page for code and all the related stuff, and some of the FAQs if they need more information, and where to go to ask for more help and stuff like that. But it is a bit of a funnel problem, because you kind of can't hit everything. Like, if people are looking up Bitcoin Cash development, it's probably not ranking up the top of that, so you kind of need to have found the podcast or get recommended to it somehow, and then you can find it. But on the other hand, if we made a Bitcoin Cash development whole web page and everything, then we'd need to put a lot of work into that to rank that up, and then somebody might be looking for a Bitcoin Cash marketplace, and then they're looking for a completely different thing. So it's only an organic effort across the whole community, because everything kind of interlinks to everything else. So it's more about they get a first point of contact, and then that helps them navigate through, because the community helps to refer them to different places. It's a bit of a unique challenge of decentralized ecosystems, I think, rather than, if you think of something like Apple or whatever that has a centralized marketing department who could all coordinate in themselves as to exactly who gets referred where, and just have a central support portal and stuff like that. Obviously BCH doesn't work that way, but I think we're doing a reasonable job on that for the size of the community, but we could definitely do a lot better. And what about Abla?
Sure.
Tell me your thoughts on Abla.
Yeah, I think it's a huge burden that's taken off of the community, right? It's at least resulted in one or two splits regarding what the proper block size is. I think, yes, we might not see it come into play for a pretty long time, right? I think filling up 32 MB blocks and then seeing the algorithm actually kick in so that it adjusts upwards or something like that, it might take a little while. So we have to probably work on that now. Now that we have actually set up a parameter, we have said that, okay, it's going to increase over time. So now we need to work on getting that to increase. How do we test that? We haven't tested that in production, right? So that's something that
we have. Like, the limit has already gone up just fractionally by like a couple bytes, because it doesn't take full 32 megabyte blocks to do it. There was one day with emergent coding, and there was 3 or 4 blocks mined in a row with 16 megabyte half full, 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 half full.
Yeah, I think stuck in the loop. Computer died. Oh, okay. That's bad. Maybe it's a network issue. Maybe try reconnecting. Okay. Very interesting that he said that. I did not know that it was right, you know, it was increased for a little bit there. Maybe I missed that. I'm not sure I saw any posts regarding that either. How long back was that, you think?
That was so bizarre. That was like out of body experience. I can hear you still talking and being like, "Oh, Jeremy's dropped out," and I'm like sitting here listening.
I was wondering why you're repeating the same thing. You got stuck in a
all right. Anyway, but yeah, like the limit has already adjusted up, like very slightly. But obviously, yeah, we do need to actually drive the traffic for that. What about the VM limits? That's been very topical recently, and you know, there's some consternation about whether it will or it won't be ready for November, with big ints maybe included, maybe no big ints, maybe just the VM limits. How closely have you been following that, and what's your take on that current state of affairs?
I think initially it was proposed pretty long back regarding the VM limits was proposed pretty long back. So I initially followed that discussion and didn't after that. Recently, I think a week back, I started noticing about that again. Although I have not looked into it too much, I would say that, you know, with respect to few of the previous upgrades that happened on Bitcoin Cash, it made a significant difference for us. Even for something like our P2P exchange, which uses a smart contract, right? I think one of the introspection upgrade or something like that increased the limit of the how much escrow can be actually held, or how many BCH can be held within the escrow. I think previously it was, I actually forgot.
It was like 30 something. It was like 32 or 21 BCH or something like that, because you could only fit it in the 32-bit numbers with the amount of Satoshis, right? And then it got expanded to 64.
Yeah, something like that. It was actually a limited amount of BCS that could be put into escrow and not more than that. But after that, basically the entire 21 million Bitcoin Cash could be put in, and that significantly increased our, you know, the way our escrow itself worked. And I think there were a few other small parameter changes as well, which made it so that we could basically run the escrow much leaner, and with, you know, which reduced the size of the contract, which made it so that the fees went low and things like that. I'm pretty sure things like that will happen for sure. We are also looking to introduce smart contracting within the gaming and within the leaderboards and things like that. One of the things that we wanted to do is to actually decentralize our what do you call it, like the arbitration itself. That cannot be done yet, I think, because of the VM limits that exist. I'm not sure what all are being increased. I would need to look into it, but I'm pretty sure if something like that is done, then it would allow us to basically make the smart contract better, so that anyone can become the arbiter within the P2P exchange. Things like that. So we are actually looking forward. So there is use case for, you know, there's a real world use case that we are looking into. We haven't looked at what else is possible, but within Zapit's, you know, ecosystem, we can see that there's definitely an increase in utility that we see happening. Regarding the big end, yes, I did read that there isn't enough research that's done. Well, I guess if there isn't enough testing, then maybe it should be postponed to maybe the next upgrade or something like that. But that would just be my opinion. If there's enough research done, if there's enough time and effort put into it, and it's proven that yes, it can be done safely and securely without causing any issues within the chain, I think it has to be done. Like those changes, I think I'm all for it. We have already seen majority of the chains suffer for, you know, with some or the other issues, right? Whether the node gets taken down or the blocks don't get propagated, the nodes have to be restarted. I don't think those kind of issues should come into the BCH ecosystem or the BCH the tech. So I think a well-researched upgrade is what we all aim for. So looking forward to that. Although I cannot talk a lot about it, I still need to do a lot more. I need to read a lot more about it. But for now, yeah, that's all I can say.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting to hear. You know, Jason has been cracking it out. I've got to give him some credit for this week. He has also just been just pumping it out after he came on the show. Then he's been posting a lot of updates. He's got the full testing. I believe I was reading the other day. I just don't want to get, you know, misquote exactly what it was, but I was reading he's done the full testing for the C++, BCHN, and also for JavaScript with libauth, and then his plan was to then go to the other nodes and also get them on a full testing thing, so we can see that on every node implementation, none of them would be wrecking the benchmarks or, you know, being able to overload the nodes or anything like that with the big ints. So we'll see how that plays out. When he came on the show, he was very confident with me that he had been a large part of blocking up this whole process, and that with him then flipped, he was going to make it a lot more easier. It was going to be streamlined a lot faster. So I'm waiting to see, but if he is able to get sort of by the end of September, all of the nodes really well vetted and tested with an implementation showing that it's going to be fine, I would find that like very compelling. That's not... I'm still a little bit on the fence and a little bit wary of this being a little bit last minute, because I like emergent reasons arguments that if we have a process, we should stick to it. You know, if you just rushing things through despite the process, why even have a process and all that? I think that's really important. And also I think if it doesn't have long enough to cook, then you know something gets missed, or somebody afterwards says, oh wait, we should have done it this other different way, and that just requires it sitting in people's mind for quite a while. But that said, Jason has been doing a fantastic job recently with Callan. Also Dagger was getting involved as well too. Bitcoin Cash Autist redirected a lot of his efforts onto this too, and it's just great to see that now we have a community where those things are going to make a difference, and so people are jumping on it and putting in the work because they know that it's going to have those real world payoffs like you're talking about. None of this is happening just, you know, engineers engineering to engineer, right? Like this is all, you know, real world stuff that we need to get done.
That's great about the Bitcoin Cash developers and the ecosystem and the community, which is the updates that happen constantly actually reflect with what businesses need, with what projects need, and how it actually makes improvements within the business and projects that are already operating. I think that's pretty important, and I don't see that much on other chains. I think, yeah, definitely there are some changes done for the sake of engineering, for the sake of claiming that, hey, you know, we have this cool thing here, but then, you know, businesses are like, yeah, but you know, we don't have any use case for this. Like, we don't know what to build with this. Like, yeah, it's cool, but what do we do with it? You know, I think having those things are quite important. So yeah, I mean, I'm glad that those things are happening, and yeah, I definitely have to go through the entire documentation. Probably I haven't watched the Jason's what do you call it, the
episode, yeah.
episode as well. Probably
Yeah.
need to see.
No, it's really fascinating because, like, you think even in a centralized company, a lot of the time, especially once it gets past a certain size, but even in a small company, you can get all kinds of problems with the engineers are working on one thing, the product managers are picking the wrong priorities, or they're not being listened to because there's some breakdown in communication or trust, and then the sales team are like selling something that doesn't exist yet, but that they hope is going to get Bill Jet's nodding away. He knows this problem, and then you have the CEO is busy like trying to impress his corporate mates with their share price going up, and like, you know, the next seed funding round, the investors want this one feature that is going to do fucking nothing but would grind the whole company to a halt for 6 months, and they're the ones paying the money, so then they get priority, and just like it can be an absolute mess even in a company of 50 people.
That does dictate. You know, sometimes it does happen that, you know, VCs might read an article, or they might see a post about, okay, there is something called ZK. It's pretty cool. I'm hearing that it's pretty cool. The post looks pretty cool. Okay, our next investment thesis is ZK. Like, if you have ZK within your product, then we're going to invest in you. So that also happens a lot. We see that with the investors a lot. They're like, yeah, but do you understand what it is? Like, do you understand what problem it solves? No, it just has that cool word called ZK. So let's just invest in it.
Yeah, it's so true. And but then that's even, yeah, just within like one company. And then like you said, if you switch it then over to a whole decentralized ecosystem, it's like the problem is exponentially worse, because then you have all kinds of people going off on their own direction. People are in different countries, they're speaking different languages, they're awake at different hours of the day and night. Maybe they are meeting up at conferences or whatever, maybe they aren't. Maybe like feuds break out between different people who are in a sort of competing segment. It just goes on and on and on and on and on, and then somebody gets some misinformation, and then somebody gets sued by somebody litigious person from somewhere, and then regulations happen, and then somebody's got all their coins in a thing that gets rugged, and like there's just so many problems going on at once that it's no wonder that the vast majority of changes do have quite a like slapdash approach that doesn't necessarily make sense as a cohesive whole. But BCH has done a very good job of that, and I think obviously it's up to all of us to maintain that by well vetting the upgrades, by listening to what businesses want. I mean, it kind of comes from the history in part though, because that was part of the block size war, right? That the BTC vibe was more like the power to the little guy, the end consumers, and the BCH community got accused of being these like corporate shills just going for Coinbase and Bitcoin.com and blah blah blah, and like while that was sort of untrue in the sense that it wasn't like everybody was being paid bots of those accounts, it was true that the community supported that line of thinking because they obviously understood economics, and like companies are what powers an economy. So if companies are trying to build products and they need something, you should try and give it to them to improve your economy. That's just obvious, So I think maybe that's playing out now today as a result of that community stand back then,
Yeah, true. I mean, yeah, you care about the users, but if they have to use a wallet, which company's wallet are they going to use? Right? You need a company for that. You need a group of people building for that. You need explorers. You need any business, like even a merchant for that matter. That's still a company that has to support. So yeah, totally on board with that. But did you hear about the recent Wazir X exchange that got hacked? That's an Indian exchange that got hacked.
No, this wasn't the one that got hacked by North Koreans, was it?
Not sure who hacked it, but I think it was multiple keys of the admins got hacked. Like they had like a multi-sig wallet, but multiple people got hacked. Not sure how, but yeah, I think more than $250 million or something like that got hacked, and the people are suffering. Yeah, I mean the people within the Indian users are suffering because, as usual, when they lose money, they don't really, they close. I mean, you already could not withdraw your crypto. Now you can't even withdraw your INR within the Indian exchange. So it's like you're completely fucked.
That's all
those users,
lawyers.
We ourselves went to all of those conferences and we said, hey, you should have self-custody, like self-custody your funds. And they said, no, it's okay. Yeah, like Mt. Gox happened like 10 years ago. It's okay. It's not good. Like it's not like any other exchange got hacked after that. So.
Speaking of which, what's his name? Magical Tux, Mark Carpellis is back in the mix, fresh out of jail or whatever he's been doing for the last 10 years, and has announced that he's launching a new exchange. Can you believe this? Like reality clown world hits its peak. No jokes. I don't have the tweet right here, but Mark Carpellis, it's called like something starting with E. Aluminum or something like that. He's launching his own exchange where he was like, a lot of innovations have happened in the last 10 years and we need those in our exchanges. A lot of innovations in crypto grifting that I'm sure he is first in line to begin experimenting with. So anybody who wants to donate their funds to Mt. Gox 2.0 can certainly go and investigate that at their own peril. Really. But it's a great deal. One other thing I wanted to ask you about as well too was I saw was there some sneaky little comments made about people have been banging on. Okay, I say banging on. That's a bit unfair. People have been really keen for Cash Fusion, and we've got it in Electron Cash. They've got it in Stack Wallet, right? And so now people are like, what other wallets can we get it into? People have asked for it for Selene. Yes, we'll do it, but there's a big backlog of things we've got to get to, and that's not the top priority for the moment. Did you or somebody in Zapit mention that you already had Cash Fusion working and there was something in the works about that? I remember it being brought up briefly.
No, we have already built Cash Fusion into Zapit Wallet. So if you have Zapit Wallet right now, technically it has the code for Cash Fusion. It's just we haven't launched it. Like we haven't launched that feature technically because we were waiting on a few other things. We wanted to package it with few other things that we're going to be launching. We have mentioned this. Whenever people ask, we mention it. We don't specifically make a post about it. We just say that yes, Cash Fusion is already ready. So we actually try to work along with Stack Wallet because we both use the same technology. We use Flutter for our app. So since Dart kind of did not have Cash Fusion in it, so we both kind of got together to work on it. But although I think they ended up getting a flip starter for it, right? So I think they ended up getting the funds for it, and then they built it on their own anyway. And yes, that code was available, so we ended up testing it within our own wallet, and it worked. So we thought, okay, we can actually launch this, but let's not launch it yet because we are also looking into few other things. I guess something like Electron Cash is, I guess you could call it like a decentralized wallet, right? Like because there is no company behind Electron Cash. Like it's not a service, it's not a profitable business. So if something like Electron Cash has Cash Fusion, it's still fine because it's considered like in a decentralized way. Since we are a profitable business that's running and we have services and stuff like that, it's a little bit more risky for us to have a like Cash Fusion, like a coin join kind of a service. It would be considered as a service that's running within the wallet. So we have to be a little bit careful, especially after what happened with Samurai Wallet and Tornado.
Yes. And
so
Wasabi,
we are still we're still looking into it. I'm like, okay, you probably need to become a lot more bigger for them to notice, but still, like you don't want to. After they notice, you don't want to discuss about what would happen then, like what steps you need to take. Then you don't want to be discussing that once they notice. So you need to discuss about that thing beforehand. So we are still kind of having a discussion about that. So it's already ready, but we don't want to launch it because we're still looking into it. What's the best way to launch it? So
okay. Do you have any time? I'm not going to hold your feet to the fire here because I know how these things can be tricky. But within a year, 6 months, 3 months.
I mean,
what are we talking?
We can make it live tomorrow if we wanted to. So it's not like
don't say that, mate. You're putting yourself into it.
we could make it live tomorrow, but we don't want to yet. We are still doing some more research when it comes to the regulations on that. We probably need to do some changes when it comes to the user experience, like the UX side of things. We need to make it very clear that it's not a service that's being offered from the wallet. Maybe packaging it within a web view could work, like if it redirects to like a web view within the app, something like that could work, because then it cannot be claimed that yes, Zapit is providing it. It's a third-party service. We can just claim it that it's a third-party service. It's quite tricky. I mean, it's quite tricky to decide right now. So the reason that we are waiting for is if we have to do it within a web view, then we need our app to work within the web, which is what we're working on right now. Like we're working on the web version of Zapit. That's going to maybe take a month or two, maybe 2 months or so. So if we are able to launch that and we can kind of, redirect the user to like the web view version of the app, then yes, we are more like, we would be confident to launch that. Because mixers are quite tricky. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. No, definitely with, like you said, Samurai, Tornado, even Wasabi Wallet. We're just talking to Nopara about that. Yeah, people are under heavy pressure there. So as much as the users want it, you've really got to dot your I's and cross your T's before you're getting involved in that.
Maybe banning US citizens could help. Like if we detect that it's a US IP, then not allowing the Cash Fusion service, maybe something like that could help. But yeah, it's not a solid solution, right? Like it's not a decentralized solution. when there are people behind a project that can be taken down, it gets a little tricky. Things get a little tricky.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, and then one other thing I wanted to just bring up a little bit was we said at the start of the show about doing the fundme.cash, and I had a really interesting experience where one of the donators who donated before to the Flip Starters wrote me a message and said, oh, hey, how do I use this? Because they didn't know they'd been using the Flip Starter, and now it's on fundme.cash, and they were kind of a little bit confused about it because you've got to use Wallet Connect, and that was obviously something that was new to them. And I found that really interesting because the Wallet Connect is going to be it's an upgrade. It's much easier to use, but obviously if you're used to what you're used to, then even something easier in contrast kind of seems more confusing at first, right? And so I think we have Wallet Connect, which is still not super well supported throughout the ecosystem. It's there. It's in a variety of options, but it's not super well supported. Like Celine, for instance, doesn't have Wallet Connect, and then neither does Bitcoin.com, as far as I know, and not Electron Cash desktop. I think
Bitcoin.com has Wallet Connect for EVM chains, right? As far as I know, I think they have.
Oh right, okay.
But not for Bitcoin Cash.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That shows how much I know. So that's still iffy. It's not just like a given that it's integrated everywhere. Same even with the cash token stuff. Celine, again, we're still playing catch up on that, but I don't think everybody doesn't have these fully built out offerings for cash tokens. We've got the native wallet stuff that General Protocols keeps talking about. That will then be the next thing, and then we have Cash Connect, which is the upgraded Wallet Connect. So it's like things are just racing ahead at such a speed that it's impossible for us to even keep up with all the different bits of infrastructure that are being built out, which I think it's a great sign, right? It's better than that we have infrastructure and everybody catches up to it, because the infrastructure is not going anywhere. It basically means we're only limited by the speed of the resources in the various projects. But I just wondered if you wanted to speak a little bit on that topic as well too, and how you see things playing out in the broader market, because obviously providing a wallet, you end up involved in all that stuff, having to use it or submit updates or whatever, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think Wallet Connect might have changed Bitcoin Cash a little bit, compared to where it used to be before. Because when I did discuss, or when I went to talk in that guild regarding Bitcoin Cash development, one of the things that people did get surprised by is that Bitcoin Cash can be used via Wallet Connect. Because they thought that okay, it's just for EVM chains, like Wallet Connect is just for EVM chains. But no, I showed them that it's possible with Bitcoin Cash as well. I connected to Cauldron. I showed them that yes, you can actually swap for tokens. It looks and works exactly like a EVM DEX, right? I mean, it's the same thing. The entire procedure is same. I think that brings us much closer to EVM chains than anything else. Any other UTXO chain, right? I mean, if people did not know that BCH was already the number one UTXO chain, this specific feature itself will bring it into their minds, because they're kind of used to how Wallet Connect works. I mean, it wasn't much hard to integrate it, but I think again, it comes to the marketing, right? Like we need to market it out properly there, that yes, Wallet Connect can be integrated. Like you can actually build products, you can introduce Wallet Connect and use Bitcoin Cash as the chain to connect to your platform. I'm not sure. I'm not looked too much into Cash Connect. I have spoken to Jim, I guess, who's working on that. He did ask us to wait a little bit until we integrate Cash Connect completely, because I think they're still ironing out things within the SDK, right? But for now, if you're just trying to make simple things with Bitcoin Cash, you don't have to necessarily stick to providing that QR code or an address which can be copy pasted with amounts and things like that. You can do it directly through Wallet Connect. It's a much better system. It's much easier to build applications. I think with TapSwap and Cauldron, we have seen that there's a huge change. I think the community itself is not noticing us that much. Like we don't have that many people using Cauldron or TapSwap. I think there were a lot more people during the SLP phase. Maybe a lot of people kind of left, or maybe they did not notice that Cash Tokens has brought back the entire token ecosystem in full force now. That's where I would say we are trying our best to do all the marketing that we can to bring all those users back. But yeah, I think you should definitely look into integrating Wallet Connect for now, at least until Cash Connect is ready. But yes, I think these things are definitely a lot more important for builders, right? Like you, it makes even if the tooling is not that great for building regular transactions and things like that, just Wallet Connect alone can actually change things, because you can actually invite most of the EVM developers, introduce the same set of code, and then yeah, you're able to. There's I think small changes that has to be made, but it's still relatively much easier if you want to swap, if you want to receive transactions and things like that. Why not? I mean, you can actually build NFT marketplaces. You can build a bunch of things, right? Yeah, I think it's quite an important direction that has been taken. From
Yeah.
really point of-
Yeah, so this is perfect. So speaking of this, we've got community comment of the week comes from Matthew Hirkins from Cash and I's wallet and all around BCH All-Star, who made a very, very popular tweet this week where he said, quote, "I'm determined to show BCH has the better vision, not just for the future of the Bitcoin project, but for the future of cryptocurrency as a whole. Debating the visions is pointless. Instead, execute on the vision by building out a use case and continuously expand from there. Go from building an profitable application to building a thriving ecosystem. We really have made incredible progress. It will start showing in the next 12 months, end quote. And then he has attached that meme of the one guy standing facing the like huge crowd of hundreds of thousands of people. And he's saying, yes, you all are wrong. And I think I love this post, and I think it was well circulated, you know, for a reason, because the BCH community has increasingly come to the point that everyone's going to try and ignore us. There's been so much of that. It's still happening to this day, right? Slowly, less and less and less. But first, you just get completely slandered, then you get ignored, right? First, they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win, then they ignore you. I like that additional element that we had going on, that classic saying. And really, it's just this idea that, yeah, debating people about the different parts of the ecosystem is stupid. If you just have something that works and works better, that ends the argument for you, you know. So I think it's really good that the community is moving in the right direction on that. And I also like that he brought up the vision. I thought that was really interesting, because that's where a lot of people get lost in a lot of these debates that don't matter. If one person is trying to build P2P cash and somebody else is trying to build crypto casino gambling, then it doesn't matter how much they argue, there's not going to be any change in perspective, because they're ultimately aiming at different things, right? So I like his point that, well, we do need a vision, and I think the BCH community is quite well aligned at the moment. People know generally what we're doing, and like we were just talking about, this change to maybe more like gaming and DeFi, as well as the obviously P2P cash stuff, is all kind of fusing together, which people might not expect from the historical BCH that they remember from 5 years ago, right? So I think it's critical that the BCH community is aligned on its vision, and I think we are, but then also that we don't get too distracted worrying about whatever anybody else is doing, because they might be not even doing the same thing. And if they aren't, then it doesn't matter if our stuff is better, because it's better for what we're trying to do, not better for what they're trying to do, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think it was long back that I decided that I don't want to, debate or discuss regarding Bitcoin anymore. I stopped doing that on Twitter and stuff, because yeah, it just doesn't make any sense, right? Like it's just better to continue building, and then you show what's possible instead of telling them what's possible. Show them what's possible. I think that's always been on my mind, and I've always continued building it. It was funny because a lot of times people think that you can see this on Twitter, right? They say that, oh, is this coin still alive? Is BCS still alive? They're like, okay, are there any wallets? Like, yes, Zapit, Selene, Petagon. There you go, it's already available. Are there any dexes? Yes, there's Colron. There you go, it's available, right? So compare that to most of the other chains. I think the focus on BTC is still a little bit high from the BCH community. I mean, BTC doesn't even have that many users anyway. Like, yes, it's on the top of the market cap, but not many people use BTC. Yes, some people might be hodling it, but majority of the users have already moved on to other chains. Like they're using Avalanche or Polygon or Ton or Solana or things like that. Like all those users have gone there, right? Like they're using the other chain. So what's the point of debating the few BTC maximalists that exists out there? Nothing is being built on BTC anyway. So what's the point of debating them, right? Maybe with other chains, yes, there might be some technical discussions that you could have, but there's nothing better than actually just building and showcasing that, right? Which is what they've been doing. Even though they don't have the most decentralized tech or the best tech, they've still been building it, and they always show off. Like if you see their post, right, they show that yes, they have this entire ecosystem. They show all the they show all the logos of the companies that are working on their chain. We don't have that many of that. Like in BCH, we have much fewer of that, and I think we should focus on that. We should probably empower more builders building on BCH. I don't think we should, even if they're new. I don't think we should shun them out. I have seen that certain individuals, which I don't necessarily want to name, whether on Reddit or something like that, when something new is built, they kind of shun them off. Like, I think you should be a little bit more inviting. They're at least trying, right? Like, we definitely need to promote that. We need to support them. Although, from individual capacities, we might not be able to support them, but at least through word of mouth, we can still do that. Yeah, I think I love what Matthew is talking about. I'm totally on board for that, and that's what we have been doing. Like, we've built a lot of things within the Zapit ecosystem for that. Like, instead of just discussing, we just built and we just put it on people's face that, look, this is all the things that you can do, right? Once the check data sig was enabled in one of the upgrades of Bitcoin Cash, a lot of people might have asked. I think even recently somebody asked that, where was that opcode used? Well, yes, that we use that in our escrow. We use that in our P2P escrow, right? So things like that. I think promoting things like that is a lot more important. Yeah, I think we should definitely focus more on the builder side of things. I like that more and more projects are coming out. I think we saw like a huge, like uptick in the SLP projects. Maybe some of it are scam, maybe some of it is just like a fun project, but we saw a huge rise in the SLP projects. But then since SLP went nowhere, it kind of just got dropped off. Now we are seeing it come up again with the cash tokens. I think we should promote it even more. I think we should put it out there even more. We should discuss about a lot of other, we should probably work together too, which other chains do it pretty well, like multiple projects within the ecosystem work together, cross promote projects, maybe have partnerships, things like that. I think that is probably share each other's users. I think those things actually make a lot more sense since we are a much smaller community.
Yeah.
If we can get users from other chains and also, which is what we have been mainly doing, right? Like the reason we went multi-chain is to actually bring more users into the Zapit ecosystem. And since our primary focus is Bitcoin Cash, if you actually open our P2P exchange and you can see within the coins, right? We show that Bitcoin Cash is on the top. We show that, okay, it's instant, like the confirmations are instant and the fees is the lowest. And then there are other chains which we show that, okay, the fee might be low, but it takes like a minute to confirm, things like that. So when a user from, let's say, Polygon or Ethereum comes to our platform for the P2P exchange, they go to the coin selector and they say that, oh, okay, Bitcoin Cash has instant confirmation, right? So that's one of the ways that we're trying to bring people into the BCH ecosystem. And things like that are more important, right? Like we need indicators and incentives built into the platform that whether psychologically or through incentive, switch people's mindset to start using a certain asset more. So that happens only when.
Yeah. And then I've got here, we've got, well, it's not community comment of the week, but it's kind of similar. There was a bit of a furor this week around Vitalik, everyone's favorite Ethereum co-founder, who made a post wondering if the value of DeFi yield has been a circular grift all along. So I'm just going to read it out here because nobody can say it better than him. Quote, and then he himself is quoting, "The yield comes from borrowers, trading fees, etc." So then that's the previous guy that he's replying to. And then Vitalik says, "Right, so this worries me. because it feels like an Ouroboros. The value of crypto tokens is that you can use them to earn yield, which is paid for by ... people trading crypto tokens. Even if the answer is something clear, like e.g. people are getting 8% APR on USD are paid by people paying 8% APR to leverage ETH at 2x, it still means that the ongoing existence of the DeFi market is downstream of the existence of the ETH market, which means that while DeFi may be great, it's fundamentally capped and can't be, well, the thing that brings crypto to another 10 to 100x adoption burst. Hence why I would love to see a story for where the yield is coming from, or could come from, that's rooted in something external. I have heard plausible candidates, e.g. that there's fundamental structural reasons why crypto is durably more efficient at doing international currency trade. I would love to hear more though, end quote. So this is caused a bit of a ruckus and a lot of celebration, because a lot of the BTC people in particular, who've been shitting on Ethereum and DeFi forever with these arguments like, where does the yield come from, or you are the yield, kind of getting to the point that a lot of this so-called innovation and DeFi really is just scams upon scams, right? Now, they were all celebrating and saying, oh, finally Vitalik gets it. We told him he was king of the scammers, and now he's started wondering, like, am I the scammer? It's like his version of, were we the baddies, right? That's what they thought was happening. But the truth is, it's in the middle, right? The thing is that a lot of DeFi is just coins trading for coins in this endless circle, in the same way that I thought of Eric Voorhees and Sam Bankman-Fried when they had that debate, and he gave that classic explanation of, if we have a box that's worth 20 million and nobody knows why it's worth 20 millions, but we've got a box, and then more money comes into the box, well, now you've got 100 million or whatever. And that was like a classic example of it's just all a circular grip, right? And that's true, because a lot of DeFi is just people swapping one token for another token, and neither token has any value, but they're just being swapped, and the whole thing's just a bit of a speculative circus. But in the same way that most cryptocurrencies are scams, but cryptocurrency itself and the main projects are not scams, DeFi is the exact same. A lot of what goes on in DeFi is lame and a scam and just not really real, but there is a section of it that is underlying it that actually is real and important, and increasingly that is going to outcompete the scams over time, right? So with BCH making this pivot from being known as this kind of, knockoff BTC that just was trying to do cash, and then nobody really adopted crypto for payments, and, the darknet markets moved on to Monero. Now that we have shifted, so we're still doing that, and we still have the best merchant adoption hubs anywhere, as far as I know, but we've also got a lot more of that DeFi and innovation, starting with what you were saying about all the different elements of the ZRP token in the wallet. I'm just wondering if you can speak a little bit to this. Are we treading a fine line here where we try and get, okay guys, yes, you've got the sound monetary properties, but yes, you can also have some DeFi? Or do you end up like, if you appeal to the DeFi crowd, then you lose the hard money crowd, and if you appeal to the hard money crowd, you lose the DeFi crowd, right? So we're kind of trying to thread the needle here on that.
Oh yeah, I think with what Vitalik is saying is completely true. Yes, majority of the tokens out there are like scammy, and they have no use case other than just for the token to be traded in and out, right? That's exactly what there are some legitimate projects out there. I'm not going to say that none of them exist, but that's exactly what we were also trying to do within the ZRP ecosystem, as you mentioned. Yes, the ZRP token is being traded, but it's not being traded for the sake of speculation, right? When somebody is buying the token, it's to advertise within our platform. So that's one use case that we have recognized, that yes, users can actually buy it, right? So if somebody else is buying the token because they expect that advertisers will buy the token in order to make money, that is speculation. That is still, it's still a viable solution that somebody can take up, but that's not going to stop advertisers from, not purchasing the token, right? And on the other front, when a user is actually making a payment and then redeeming the token in order to, let's say, get the discount, right? They're not selling the token to make a profit on the token that they purchased, which they didn't. They actually earn the token, right? But then they're actually selling it within the DEX in order to redeem it for discounts. Again, that's utility. So there are endless ways to actually build utility within your token projects like this. As long as there is a legitimate reason for a token to be purchased and a legitimate reason for it to be sold in the market, that buying and selling itself is a huge DeFi ecosystem that's being built, and it's legitimate. It's an actual reason for why the a DEX could exist, for example. But unfortunately, that's not what we see. He's completely right with what he says, that just because somebody introduced a DEX does not mean that it's meant to be, just for trading, right? It can be used for a bunch of things which users are not using it for. Again, I think that comes down to education, because the builders are not seeing, like, most of them are not visionaries, right? Like they see a project and then they just want to replicate that. They don't want to come up with their own ideas as to what can be built using the system, because the education for that doesn't exist. I think more projects that utilize this. I think BAT token also does something similar, but they don't do it through the DEX, as far as I'm concerned. Um, Users, when they actually earn the token, they do not get it from a DEX. They have to sign up to like a platform in order to withdraw it. I'm not sure how advertisers also get BAT. I'm not sure if they're pushed towards a DEX to earn it. So again, like, you have the entire infrastructure, you have the idea, just utilize it in the right way. And yeah, we are doing that. Like, we have actually written a blog post regarding how ZRP's entire ecosystem works. If we can get that into more eyes of builders, I think they can see that, okay, this is one way of actually using a DEX in order to build a entire ecosystem, a circular ecosystem. And while that's happening, the token is being bought and sold for utility reasons. The price might change because of that. So that should drive speculators. It should not be the opposite. The speculators should not come first and then drive the utility. It should be the utility that's driving the speculators. So I think a lot of people might recognize this now that Vitalik has made the post, and they might read it and they're like, oh, okay, yes, you can use it for utility. Maybe I will build it for utility, like Vitalik is talking about. Maybe that's what usually triggers people. So let's see. I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, I just think it's funny because it's like you have just a huge mob. It's almost like a bunch of kids in a playground that are just like running after a ball or something. It's like the ball moves in one direction, they all just stampede over there, and then the ball moves in another direction, they all stampede over there, right? And you could just be like, guys, why don't you just throw the ball in the, in the goal? Like, that would be the point of it, right? Why don't you just spread out? And I feel like it's kind of the same, where like the BCH community have been saying literally since the beginning, literally since 2009. Okay, so we're going to have Bitcoin. It's going to be a world currency. It's also going to be a programmable money, the internet of money, as Andreas Antonopoulos was always saying. Like, literally, that's always just been exactly what we're saying. But then you have people like, whoa, no, we got to have hard money, and all this other stuff is just scams. And then you have people, whoa, we're all going to get into DeFi and yield trading and hard money. That's just boomers. We've got ultrasound money with our deflationary thing that is turning into a fail, like we covered on the show recently. And then like it all just goes back and forth when it's really just like the whole time the answer was just right there. But it just, I don't know, the world's a big place and people are stupid and things happen, and like people don't just get to the answer and then stick with it that quickly. It takes a long time for somebody charging off in that direction before the crowd starts to really follow it, and that's what I feel like we're trying to do here in BCH.
Is there any DeFi platform that you use?
Me? Well, outside of the BCH ones, no. Like, I don't need
No, but
them,
like,
I guess.
forget about the chain, forget about the coin, anything like that, right? I'm talking about like the concept of DeFi. Is there any concept of DeFi that you actually use in your day-to-day life?
Well, yeah, like I use Cauldron sometimes. I've used Zapit in the past to buy advertising. I've been using BCH Guru recently. I've really been enjoying that, actually. And I think hopefully we can get a bit more traction going on that, because I really like their leaderboards. And I think if we get a bit more competitive spirit in the community going, we just have a bit of, just like any kind of community meme or hub, like where we have the joke about the hot dogs from the Price channel, stuff like that. If it just becomes like fun shit talking of I'm ranking up higher than you on BCH Guru, so why would I care what you have to say? Like, you're Guru number 400, so get out of here, son. Like, why don't you rank up a bit before you start, what's it called? Talking up, about this. Like, I think that would be fun, right? So yeah, like I do use these DeFi things. I use BCH Bull,
which is not BCH. Yes, BCH tends to have a lot more utility-based platforms. I meant, which are not BCH. Like, for example, there's a lot of DeFi, like tons, right? Like hundreds of DeFi platforms on Ethereum, on Polygon, on Avalanche, on Solana. Any of those, forget about the coin itself, right? Do you think any of the platform itself, if that was available on BCH, would you use them on a daily basis?
Well, there must be some, right? They obviously, we have like Cauldron, which is the equivalent of all those dexes which people use. There's those loan ones where you put in one coin and then you get loaned out USD and stuff like that. I don't really put a lot of stock in that. I understand that it's popular and a lot of people are using it for something, and that maybe makes sense to them. But
I mean, utility based, which is not speculation. I was trying to get to a utility based DeFi platform.
Like Clementine's Nightmare.
Most of it just doesn't exist. Most of it is just speculation, or it's just for the sake of like, it's just casino, right? Or it's just gambling out there. I mean, I'm not against gambling. That's totally fine. But I'm saying that there's nobody that's building actually something that's useful, like financially or something like that, right? I think that's where we lack. Like the last 10 years, there's not much being built. I would have expected a lot more things to have been built, right? But no, I don't know why, but there's not much being built.
Got to be the next 10 years. Yeah. Once I played and I went on, and then some guy was like, do you want to get some like goblin bones or something? You got to like go out into this wilderness. So I was like, all right. So I went out there, and then they immediately like shanked me and like took my like 3 copper coins or whatever the hell. And I was like, you idiot. Like you killed like the lowest ranking, but you could have spawned a new account yourself and got my stuff. Like what was the point of that? But then after that, I didn't go back to it.
I've heard of the game, but I don't think I've played it. I've never played that game. Oh yeah, that's exactly what we're building. So the way we have actually structured the entire NFT is it's going to be cross game compatible. Like if you have a Shield NFT, you can use it across different games that we're going to be building. So that's exact. Although we have not specifically built a marketplace for it, but yes, that feature exists. Like we're going to be building that feature. Like you can use a specific power-up item as an NFT, or even characters for that matter, across different games. I've not seen that in different chains or different games yet. So when we do introduce it, maybe as the first time, it will be pretty cool.
I've just realized we gotta talk more, because I've got to get. You said you can have the Flappy Birds, the Zappy Birds, and you can get the different NFTs on there. Dude, we got to get the Jessica NFTs in there so you can play as your little Jessica avatar, because there's so many people using.
We can look into if anything can be used as a character, because right now the characters are still, kind of gated by what we allow in the game. But yeah, it would be cool if we could make it open enough where any character could be used within the game. Yeah, I think
Or
that
even if it's not any character, but we do a special integration for the Jessica NFTs, because you have that on BCH Guru, and I love that. That's what I was saying about the leaderboard. If you go on the leaderboard, the top 5, 3 of them have the Jessica NFTs. One has a Guru, and one has like no, profile picture, right? But I'm hoping over time, like, people are going to get excited and they're going to be all ranking up, and then it'll be mad flex if you've got a Jessica NFT, and it could be the same with the Zapit. That sounds actually pretty fun. So we definitely got to look into that. That would be a pretty cool collaboration, I think.
Actually, that gave me a really good idea, because then there could be teams that's just making NFTs that can be used within our game. You could just sell items that can be used within our game. I think that would be pretty cool. Like we are not going to make items anymore. It's just you make an item and you sell the item, and it can be used within our game. I think that's not done anywhere else as far as I'm aware.
Innovating here on the podcast. Okay, all right. So in the backdrop of all this DeFi scamming, you have the crypto scene coming under attack from some lawfare and also free speech more generally, which is not specifically related to crypto necessarily, but it's adjacent to it. This week we've had in the news OpenSea got a Wells notice, or maybe they were threatened to get a Wells notice. I wasn't too clear on the details, from the SEC. So they're a big NFT trading platform on Ethereum, and Gary Gensler, who has gone around making one by one all the biggest companies in crypto his enemy, has then, I don't know why he doesn't focus on like winning a battle against one of them before he just like starts up shit with everyone. It's like the world's worst strategy, where he just goes to agitate everyone. It's like he's never played a video game before, where if you agitate every mob at once, then you're gonna get wrecked when you've got to isolate them. You've got to fight one battle at a time. Anyway, he has been out there trying to lawfare them when they were like trying to comply with his regulations, which were very unclear anyway, and basically it was all just a way for them to sue them and do lawfare, laws by enforcement. At the same time, you've had Pavel Durov, the Telegram CEO, has been arrested in France. Now, again, we're not really going to know the truth of what's going on there, but some of the charges against him are things like providing cryptology services aiming to ensure confidentiality without certified declaration, providing a cryptology tool not solely ensuring authentication or integrity monitoring without prior declaration, importing a cryptology tool ensuring authentication or integrity monitoring without prior declaration. And so basically they're trying to get him for having a platform which uses cryptography, aka mathematics, without it being licensed and without their ability to control it. And it's all, of course, political. What's his name? Mark Zuckerberg was in France previously. He was not getting arrested for WhatsApp allowing people to distribute content on WhatsApp, but Telegram is apparently not okay because he's maybe not just handing over all of his user data when asked for it. And then at the same time as all this, you also have Twitter potentially being forced to close in Brazil. That's underway right now after a judge ruled that it had to block certain accounts. I believe it was like the left-leaning government sort of got in control, and then the Supreme Court said that certain right-wing accounts needed to be blocked, and then Twitter kind of refused to do it because they were like, well, this is just free speech. And so now the Brazilian Supreme Court was saying, well, you can't have an office here anymore, or you need to have a legal representative that we can then basically sue or hold accountable. And Twitter was sort of refusing to do that because they felt like it was all trumped up. Anyway, so it might end up being that Twitter gets officially switched off in Brazil, and it just is not offered in Brazil at all. And Brazilian users have to act via a VPN to use it or not. But we're just seeing all around, obviously, law being used to crack down on cryptography, personal sovereignty, free speech, right? All the stuff that we always talk about on this show. It's here, guys. This is not, we're just imagining it, or it's really ramping up at the moment. What do you make of all this?
Yeah, well, a lot of things to cover there. I guess, with respect to OpenSea, um, I mean, I guess you could expect it because a lot of these NFT projects, again, are not utility based projects. They're just selling it for the sake of selling it, which is what we have seen even in the gaming space. A lot of these Web3 games that claim themselves as Web3 games, if you actually play the game, there is nothing Web3 about it. You just play a regular game, that's it. And then you go to their website and they're like, oh, here's the NFT that we are selling. Yeah, but what can you do with the NFT? There's nothing. Like, they're literally using the sale of NFTs to fund their development of the project. Now, whatever you might think about, the rule that says that, the securities law, that's actually a security. If you're selling NFT just for the sake of raising funds to in order to build the game, yeah, I mean, SEC is going to come after you. We might disagree with that, but apparently that's the rule. So that's what SEC is going to do. And OpenSea has been allowing people to buy and sell those NFTs within their platform. So it's they probably should have done a little bit of due diligence. I'm not sure, or if they are totally fine with allowing that kind of content. I guess yeah, they're gonna get approached by the SEC. This just probably forces all other NFT marketplaces and stuff to do a little bit more due diligence as to what NFTs are being sold within the platform, right? You have to make sure that the tokens that are being sold are utility-based tokens and not direct securities, because I mean, it's always been the case that yes, you cannot sell a token, whether it's a fungible or non-fungible. I don't think that's specifically mentioned anywhere. If it's a token, then it's a token. And you're selling the token for the sake of an investment contract, right? And then you're raising funds to actually, develop your product or whatever. And then the only thing that a user can do is sell it at a higher price. Well, that's speculation, so that's security. Um, I don't know. What do you think about OpenSea receiving that? Because I think SEC is well within their right to go after him. I'm against it. Like, I'm against whatever SEC is doing. But according to their own laws, yeah, OpenSea seems to have broken that rule.
Well, I don't know the specifics of the laws. Certainly in each individual case, you need to read up on the case law and the precedents and all. So I haven't done enough of a deep dive to really know that. What I do think, though, is that the crypto industry has been very vocal that the rules are not clear, and ever since the bit license in 2014 with that guy, what's his name, Ben Lawsky or whatever, who then immediately went to work he worked for the government as the guy who set the rules in New York for what you were and weren't allowed to do with crypto, and then he immediately quit and started being this high-paid consultant for people who wanted to get that license so that they could operate crypto in New York. There's just all so much corrupt behavior around regulating of cryptocurrency that my default position is very skeptical. Like, even if there is room for some reasonable legislation, the government have not done, in various jurisdictions and in various ways, have not done themselves any favor by deliberately making the laws either unclear or bringing in onerous regulations that then shut down business projects like you've experienced and you were talking about before. And then they do that, and then afterwards they wonder why the crypto industry is not treating them well back, right? It's like, well, if you're just not going to deal in good faith to begin with on your side, then there's not going to be any positive response from the crypto side. And so all these the one fortunate thing is that for the crypto industry, the government tries to regulate the biggest players who are the ones best able to fight back. So in that case, they just, we've got the right part of the crypto industry like bearing the brunt of that attack. So I like that part of it, but I just think it's so ridiculous that there's just this endlessly unclear rules, and then the SEC every week seem to be starting up a fight with some new people when it's just like they're just throwing mud at a wall. Like, how much more can they just try and push on the courts that crypto is bad and illegal or whatever? Meanwhile, every day people are just cracking on building stuff. Like, this is the future. Fucking get with it, guys. I'm honestly sick of anyone who's...
But I think there is one clear rule, which is the Howey's test, which they seem to be taking pretty strictly, right? I think that does say that if you're selling your token as an investment contract, then yes, that's considered as a security. Um, I think a lot of these tokens are breaking that rule. I mean, again, I'm against the entire Howey's test itself. I don't think it should exist. I mean, I think individuals should be free to do whatever they want, but under that rule that exists, that the Howey's test that exists, a lot of these do come under that law by selling their token to the people. I think they are kind of breaking that one rule, and I think unless and until you become too big, SEC doesn't really care about you. But the moment you become big, then yeah. And if you're a platform that actually offers that token, like if that token is considered as security, and if you're a platform that offers that token, then yes, you are also under scrutiny, basically. I think that's what is OpenSea. I don't think OpenSea itself is issuing anything. I think the reason OpenSea is being attacked is for allowing those securities to be traded on their exchange or on their platform.
Yeah, very, very fair take. What do you make of this other stuff with Telegram and with Twitter? I kind of see all these three items as, all sort of one thing, right? It's just this general attitude that we have documented and highlighted on the show many times before, that how, free speech is being increasingly restricted and censored and monitored and all that, obviously online as well as maybe in other cases, right? But particularly online, and with people trying to, push back against government regulations and so forth. So that it's just like, it just keeps coming. It just keeps ramping up, right? When are we going to get past the high water mark and see things start receding? I don't know. Maybe never. I don't know.
Do you think it has completely to do with Telegram, or do you think there is some angle of the Telegram token that they belongs to? Do you think?
Well, I don't think that's
users into it.
No. I don't see a crypto angle to this. Some people do, and they were taking that angle to it. Some people have said, oh well, maybe it's about the Ukraine-Russia war, where apparently lots of the Russian military were using Telegram, and then so obviously if you could grab that data, you would have military intelligence that would be very handy. I can see maybe that's a decently sized factor, although I don't know if that's all of it, and if it isn't, it's just a bizarre. Anything involved in war, that there's going to be propaganda and stuff, so it's very hard to get to the bottom of what's even happening there at all to begin with.
The reverse could also be true, right? Because I think even a lot of Ukrainians were using
yeah, exactly.
But Russia didn't do anything regarding that. I mean, they could have easily issued a lot of things against him. But they seem to be in support of him, right? After France caught him, I think one of the representatives of the Russian side came out and said that what they're doing is wrong, even though initially Russia was the one who I know what you're doing is wrong. Sure, but yeah, I mean, there's definitely an attack on privacy. I'm not sure. I don't think this affects individuals. I think this is more of him not, adhering to their rules or something like that. Definitely. I think he's gonna get out. I don't think he's gonna get the same treatment as like Julian Assange or something like that. Even though, although I did see today morning that there was some case against him from Switzerland regarding sexual assault or something like that. That seemed to be very similar to
Julian Assange. This is some way back type of stuff, and there was so many theories around that. Was that all cooked up so that then he could be extradited from certain countries that he would need to go to defend himself, and blah blah blah. That's a whole. There would be someone else who's done a true crime documentary or something that explains all of that. I don't know all the details, but I do know it's very messy.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I guess the Twitter thing is a little crazy because, as far as I have seen, Twitter seems to block accounts in India. Like when the Indian government requests Twitter to block certain accounts, they have no problem. But for some reason, he seems to be fighting the Brazilian government, which is I'm like, okay, wait, why is there dual standards there? You don't fight the Indian government against when they ask you to block, because I've seen even one of the accounts that I myself follow, his account got nuked from Twitter. I was like, why? And then there was a specific message. I think I had taken a screenshot of that. It said that this account is blocked due to a notice from the Indian government. It said that on his profile on Twitter. I'm like, okay, if you can do that here, why are you fighting? And I feel like it's a much bigger issue than just that. I think this is a different kind of politics that's being played than just an account being blocked or something like that. Maybe something behind the scenes that we don't know or that they're not talking about. Again, I don't think it's just something small, because I'm pretty sure there are a lot of other countries asking Twitter to block certain people's accounts as well. But Brazil seems to be coming out as an outliner here, so I'm not sure what's going on there. Yeah, I've heard that. I think Brazil might have something against Twitter specifically too, because I even read that if you use VPN to access Twitter, then you can be fined for $8,000 something or something like that. Seems to be a stretch, $8,000 just to access VPN. But yeah, seems like they don't want their citizens to be using Twitter for some reason. Maybe because they're getting the truth. I mean, you don't want people to access truth, then you don't want them to give access to the specific platform. So.
Exactly. Nobody was ever. It's so ironic that, like, I think that people are they're always trying to shut down these different sites with the saying it's because they're spreading misinformation. No, if they were spreading misinformation, that would be fine. There would be no need to shut them down if they're spreading misinformation. If they're spreading the truth, that's when they need to be shut down, because somebody's getting exposed. Like,
I think Twitter might get the same treatment from UK as well, with all the situation that's happening in UK, in England, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Didn't he have a spat with the Prime Minister of UK as well?
Oh, Keir Starmer, yeah, he was also calling him out, yeah. It's Elon
So maybe,
versus the world governments, right?
Maybe personal political stuff that's happening right now with Twitter, because it's a completely private company now. I think he's just playing around with all the politicians at this point.
True. True. Okay. All right. One other thing that we can touch on quickly, like you said before, okay, I think the BCH community needs to talk a bit less about BTC, and I obviously agree, but I thought we could just make a quick note of the ongoing collapse of the hoax. We've had a few more developments in the last week. The first one was that John Carvalho made a tweet about my current favorite Bitcoin podcast is the Bitcoin Takeover podcast by Vlad Kosti, which is basically just starting to be now this little sub-industry that they're creating amongst themselves for people who've woken up that BTC is a hoax. They were part of the scam. They were the bad guys, right? But instead of saying we were the bad guys, let's talk to the BCH guys who told us that from the start. Instead, they've had like trying to move into the middle without saying that BCH was right. They want to say, oh, well, maybe there's some room for Litecoin, maybe Monero, maybe we need more privacy coins. Joel Valenzuela had a fantastic tweet where he said, look, basically people are going to use privacy as their excuse to shift into other coins without admitting that they were wrong about scaling. The initial fight was about scaling, but instead they're going to go for privacy as their excuse. And that's spot on. That's exactly what we're starting to see here. So I thought, they call us we're the B cashers, so they could be the B copers, because this is basically just the way to avoid BCH. And I'm very bullish on this segment of people. I think there's going to be an increasing amount of the BTC guys who were very big in that camp, who reality has now got to such a point that they can't maintain that belief any longer. It's just too fundamentally obvious, and it's also too unpopular because none of it's true. It's all hoaxes and lies. And so they're trying to cook up their own little copium industry. And at the same time, you had Peter McCormack, whose What Bitcoin Did podcast we have had many clips of on this show, has announced that he's rebranding from not What Bitcoin Did. It will in future be the McCormack Show. And his rationale was that he wants to, instead of traveling all around the world to do this Bitcoin stuff, he wants to just stay in one place because the travel is wearing on him. That part I I take no issue with that. I think that's great, although it is indicative that the BTC is not going well enough that people can afford or bother to travel to him, even for the gigantic platform that he's offering. But the other reasons that he gave was to broaden the appeal in order to try and connect with more people, since the BTC message he was finding was not resonating with anybody outside of the BTC community, and to avoid having the same stagnant guests that he kept having on over and over and over, both of which are really just, talking out of the sides of your mouth about exactly what we've said 100 times, that this was just an entire grift and he was just up there being the main promotional channel. And now that that's started to slow down, like we said, no euphoric price pumps, not everybody getting rich, willing to go to each other's conferences and fly around to be on podcasts and all talk up BTC, digital gold, and blah, blah, blah. After several years of that, it's all just kind of starting to slow down and come to a bit of an end. So I think this is actually a very smart move individually for Peter to rebrand away from the failing BTC grift ahead of the curve. But I think for anybody who is still inside the hoax and hasn't figured this out yet, this is the sign that the rug pull is like starting, when the biggest promoters and influencers are just finding their way casually onto, we want to do a more broader appeal, or we're just not going to be so dogmatic. That's the sign that it's all ending. What do you make of this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to know, because I barely pay attention to the Bitcoin maxis at all. I'm curious as to how many of them are actually trying to get away from this. Like, is there like a poll that's done as to what percentage have figured out that they like to?
I don't know.
Or is it just the small ones that are starting out?
Well, that's the thing. Like, I don't have all the, I keep a half an eye on it, but not enough to do a comprehensive assessment of all of them. But what I will say is that in the last 3 weeks to 2 months, there's been a lot of announcements. Mutiny Wallet closed down because their Lightning Network, blah, 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 it wasn't working out. You had the problems. Yeah, you had the problems with Wasabi Wallet that Nopara was talking about, and it was unfortunate for him, and that was due to regulation and stuff. But that was another example. You've got what Bitcoin did is now like wrapping up, and Peter's moving on to his next big thing. There's just a lot of examples, and then obviously Vlad Kosti sort of trying to change his segment to target so-called privacy coins, aka digital cash coins that aren't BCH, anything but BCH. John Carvalho is moving in that direction. There's just all kinds of them, like finding their way out, and it'll be gradually, then suddenly, it'll hit a tipping point where suddenly everyone will be like, we don't have any industry left. Like, we already saw that with the BTC conference, and what we heard, that it was mostly mining and then political stuff with like Donald Trump and whatever. There was very little of actually like new wallets and new actual transacting things, no business, and no DeFi. Like nothing like that. Yeah, no economy.
Yeah, I think it kind of makes sense that, none of them will accept that they were wrong. Nobody will accept that Bitcoin Cash was right. They're never going to do that. I don't think, maybe very few of them who are honest might do it, but majority of them will never accept. They will try to find something new, of course. They will go to Ethereum or something like that, because that's not something that they constantly attacked, right? So it kind of makes sense. I think pointing that out is quite important, because that kind of reiterates what Bitcoin Cash had been talking about from the beginning, or at least was trying to solve from the beginning.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, I think they're just leaving a vacuum that somebody else might take in. Like, if these guys stop becoming the maximalist gurus, somebody else will just come and take their position. So
no, but
that's
I think
what right? One after the other, one after the other.
Well, maybe, but I don't agree with that. B-Chad says in the chat as well, Swan Bitcoin, another one, they announced that they were doing layoffs. They shut down their conference that they were running every year, Pacific Bitcoin. Of course, they made loads of noise on Twitter about everything's fine, nothing to see here, but actually, announcing like we're winding down operations, things are kind of not going well. when you say a new batch of like grifters are going to come in, I don't think so. I don't think so, because the point is that the base is leaving. It's like a political party. When the base starts leaving, then it's shrinking, and then some new people will come in because somebody wants to be king of that smaller hill, right? But it's still going to be a smaller hill, and it's still going to keep losing support, right?
Yeah, I guess eventually it's just going to be BlackRock that's pointing the direction where Bitcoin is going to go. So everyone has to leave. I'm not sure how people are celebrating that BlackRock is supporting Bitcoin. Like, how is that a good thing? I'm not too sure about that.
Well, because their religion is that the more people pour institutional money in, that will make them all rich to live in a citadel. But that's obviously always been.
They were already pouring money into JP Morgan and Chase and all these big banks, right? Like, why didn't you just follow that angle from the beginning? I thought the entire point of Bitcoin was that you didn't want to.
No, because you can't virtue signal with that. No, but that was the thing. You got to co-opt the Bitcoin brand, the BTC brand, to virtue signal about how you're against the big banks and whatever, but at the same time hope that they're going to pump you back and get rich. Of course, it's all nonsense. But anyway, this is just another day in the life of documenting the ongoing death of BTC. Okay, we got meme of the week here. This is also quite nicely timed because it's kind of someone further down the pipeline. It's from Ryan X Charles, who was, of course, a classic BSV supporter and a big fan of Craig Wright. He did a whole video series interviewing him and everything like that. And then on the show a few episodes ago, this was a little while ago, after Craig lost in court, he made a video saying, I've realized that I was scammed and Craig was a liar and all that stuff. We did it. I think it came out like live while we were on the show. Anyway, then since then, Craig Wright has had all his assets frozen. He's in all kinds of grief, and he's basically fled to somewhere in Southeast Asia, it seems like, maybe Thailand or somewhere else. But he keeps doing YouTube streams from his like hotel room or something, where he's basically in like a cupboard or something like that, and it's him and like Craig Wright.
Oh, Craig Wright. Okay.
So he's in Thailand. Except he's still doing streams called The Philosophy of Law while
Didn't he have basically to think about Thailand jails or something like that?
Well, probably, but he's none of it makes sense. Like, he's on the run, or he's trying to keep like a low profile, but his ego can't stand not doing some streams of himself pontificating about whatever. So he's been doing these ones from him basically looking like he's in a cupboard to like 3 people about the philosophy of law, as he refuses to, accept his sentencing that he's already received in the courts, where he said, if I'm so wrong, just sue me and then I'll deal with my comeuppance. And then of course that's happened and he's run away. But anyway, so Ryan X Charles has now made a meme version or response to those Craig Wright streams on the philosophy of law. So let's have a hear what he had to say.
Hello everybody, thank you for joining my lecture. Today we're covering the philosophy of running from the law. So in today's lecture, I'd like to cover what happens when you piss off a huge number of people and they all want you in prison. Well, just run away. Run away to a foreign country and hide in the closet. Why hide in the closet? Well, in case it isn't obvious, there are no windows in the closet. Nobody can see you hiding inside a closet. So no one's going to be able to hold you accountable for losing billions of dollars of other people's money or whatever it is that you've done. So just spend the rest of your life hiding in a closet, and no one's going to be able to hold you accountable. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you for listening to my lecture. Please stay tuned for the next lecture on the philosophy of running from the law, part 4, where we'll cover hiding in a bathroom. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I got a good laugh out of this one. I really enjoyed this. It's just great to see the redemption arc, after Ryan X Charles has been all scammed and blah blah blah. I mean, now he's still busy starting his own new crypto coin, which is going to be the next big thing, which is definitely not going to be the next big thing, and so forth. But so it's like oh no.
It's kind of sad because I think he was a good developer. I think he had built some good products when it was on BCH and stuff. Sad to see such talent go to waste now. I mean, he could still come back and build something nice. I mean, who's stopping him from doing that? But no, I guess you got to chase after the next trend, which is launching your own coin. So
yeah, very 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 sad. But at the very least, he's started turning his misfortunes into some quality memes. So I've got to give him props and a little bit of self-awareness points on that respect. Okay, all right. Message to the community. Open platform for the BCH community. Romit, what does the BCH community need to hear?
Oh, it's already not been said. I think, let's focus on just building, let's focus on promoting the builders. Let's focus on getting more funding into the Bitcoin Cash ecosystem because, when there are things like grants and investments, more businesses follow, more entrepreneurs follow, more developers follow. You need the right tooling. You just need the entire ecosystem. I don't think focusing on just one angle works. Working on a multitude of things is always better, and we need to support each other. It's a pretty small community, so it's much more easier to do so. Promoting each other's projects, talking about each other, just through word of mouth, promoting it on social media, things like that. I think doing things like this, where we are discussing about what's happened, what's happening, what's going to happen in the future. Just focusing on building right now, since everything else is solid. Just focusing on building and marketing whatever is being built. I think let's just focus on that, and that's how we move forward. That's how we grow. So,
love it. All right, let's get on to wrapping up with the supporter appreciation. We've got our donators. Thank you very much. I always love the donators. The patrons, Ricky and HP. Our sponsor, General Protocols. Check out bchbull.com. Our flip starter has been done. We've delivered. All the episodes are delivered. And if you want to join the next batch of people getting shouted out for flip starters, or if you just want to contribute to the running of the show, you can go to fundme.cash, and we are listed on there, and you can try out Wallet Connect. But thank you to our Flipstarter donators from the previous one, Marjamalu, Marcelo. Check out 2024.bcharg.com and come to the BCH Argentina conference. Molecular, Erdogan Talk, Turek, Emergent Reasons, Big V and the Bitcoin Cash Tokyo Gang, Peter McCormack, Brian Kanachi, @_mini Satoshi, and yeah, beer. Love you all very much. Start guide, FAQ, and links are at bitcoincashpodcast.com. If you're new, listen to episode 85. You can try out Selene Wallet at selene.cash, and you can fill out the listener survey at bitcoincashpodcast.com/survey. I'm really interested to see what results we get. Most of the questions are the same, but we tweaked a couple of them, and should be a really interesting insight to see the response we get back. Okay, final shout outs, Romit. Where can people find more of you, and anyone else you want to give a special nod of appreciation to?
Sure. I mean, you can go to zapit.io. Every other links are available there. Whether it's the download links, whether it's our community links, join our community. It's on Telegram, it's on Discord, we're on Reddit, Twitter, everywhere. So yeah, just zapit.io.
Amazing. Jet, any shout outs from you? Nothing? All right, and my shout out this week goes to Pantera BCH. If you don't know, Pantera BCH was a long-time Bitcoin casher who makes a ton of interesting content and promotional material and graphics and that kind of thing around BCH, and got sort of infamously banned after criticizing Elon Musk on Twitter a little while ago. but he's back in action after a hiatus with a new account. So go to @Pantera, capital PANTERA _BCH, and he's only got 191 followers right now, so definitely deserves some love. Highly recommended, because an absolutely amazing BCH contributor, and glad to see him, her, they, whoever, back in the fray on the BCH posting on Twitter, because they always do an absolutely great job. So go check that out. All right, I think that'll do it. Thank you all for listening. Until next time.